I'd like to introduce Trish from Australia, who has primary progressive MS. Welcome, Trish.
Hi there.
And I understand that you're originally from South Africa.
That's correct, yes.
So you're a foreigner, really?
Yes, the advantage is everyone in Australia is pretty foreign. Just about everyone's migrated at some stage.
Yes, that's true. Or you'd all be Aborigines, wouldn't you?
That's right, exactly.
So when did you first started to notice MS symptoms?
Well, my very first, I didn't know then, of course, but looking back, which we all do, when I was 10 years old, I was very fit. I was a gymnast. I was a netball player, and I did something else, and was never fatigued. And then I went on a hike with some friends up a mountain, and I just couldn't keep up. And that was my first experience at 10. And then at 15, I had a really bad, what they'd call today, attack. And I only recognized it as such because many years later, maybe 20 or 30 years later, I had exactly the same. And I thought, good grief, they never diagnosed it then. They didn't know what it was. And then it became really bad at about 45.
Okay, when you say it became really bad, what were your symptoms?
Well, actually, it always seems to be when I was walking. I'd been on a long walk, and I was walking back, and I was struggling, and my legs started swinging to the side. And I only knew what it was because I was actually working with people with MS at that time.
Okay.
So I diagnosed myself. And I remember when I got to the house, I was walking up a hill, my leg was trembling and I felt really weak and I had trouble. And then I spent the next year going around trying to get people to give me a diagnosis because walking was getting difficult. And nobody could diagnose it until I finally went back to the GP and I said, look, I think this is MS. Then she sent me to a neurologist who said it's not anyway. All I wanted was an MRI. Finally, he gave me an MRI, which of course, and then he said, yes, you've got MS and I can't do anything. Goodbye. And as I walked out the door, he said, oh, and you'll have your next attack in a month.
Oh.
So encouraging. And I did. It took me a year before I stopped getting worse every month. It's like they point the bone at you.
That's awful, isn't it? So, by this time, had you got any other symptoms other than the leg?
I can't rightfully actually remember, but the worst thing was always, the other thing that I've always had, it's sort of one of my primary symptoms, has been pain.
Right.
So I started to ache, and the way I could most best describe it is like rheumatism, that sort of aches in the arms and legs and the shoulders.
Okay, so moving on, how did you hear about LDN?
I wish I'd heard about it more recently, but I found a thread, and I think it was on probably This Is MS, which I think is an English website. And they had a thread on LDN, and that was only about 4 years ago. And by that stage, I was tremendously allergic, which has been one of my problems. And so I don't easily take anything without having allergy or allergic reaction. But when I saw that it was a very low dose, I thought, I think I can try that. And so it took me a year before I thought I'm going to go for that.
So
but I wished I'd known about it 10 years earlier.
So was it easy to get a prescription in Australia?
Well, I was actually very lucky. I just walked into the medical center, which is, you could just go and see a whole number of doctors. They usually have 4 or 5 on duty. And I only very seldom go to the doctor, but I walked in there and I just happened to get a very nice young Asian doctor. And at first she was horrified because when she looked it up, they only had that big dose, 50 milligrams for drug addiction and alcohol. And I said, no, all I want is 3 milligrams. And then she said, well, really, what harm can it do? Go for it.
Wonderful. And was it easy?
So when I suggested for other people,
yes.
they've had enormous problems.
Yes. You were very, very lucky.
So I was lucky. Yes.
So when you started, did you notice any side effects?
Yes. But then, as I said, I'm hugely allergic to everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I did have side effects. I had insomnia for about 8 months, and I had hot hands, and I got that very, very bad spasticity, because spasticity is one of my bad symptoms. In fact, I have a baclofen pump,
right,
which helps with the spasticity a bit and with the pain hugely.
Mm-hmm.
So those are all things, but I was determined that this was good, and I'd started to see, I was lucky in that after 2 weeks I started to see benefits.
And what benefits?
So even though I had all these
mm-hmm.
side effects, hold on, I said, I can see benefits, and I know it'll stop the progression, and this is just, I've got to do this.
Yes. And what benefits did you notice?
Benefits,
mm-hmm.
they were huge. Well, the first thing I noticed, which was that was after 2 weeks, is in the middle of the night, I've got one leg that was very stiff, and in fact I couldn't bend it at all. But in the middle of the night, that leg got bent, and I could actually bend it. It got so supple I could sort of turn on my side and curl up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first thing. And then I saw gradually a huge number of things. I think I've had about 15 benefits, but I can remember the really big ones.
Mm-hmm.
I always had really bad sinus, which would always lead to a worsening of MS, but generally a new symptom. But that stopped completely. I feel really, really good. I'm never sick. I'm always well, and I'm always happy, which is lovely. I had been losing my voice for 2 years, and after I'd taken LDN probably for a year, I noticed my voice was coming back, and it's now virtually 100%.
Well, that's good.
The other thing was I'd lost nearly all my sense of taste and smell,
mm-hmm.
and that came back gradually. I haven't reached 100%, but at least I can. My taste is about 80%, and my smell is about 70%.
Mm.
What else? Let me see. I did write them down. I can walk a bit further. I walk with a cane,
mm-hmm.
but my walking is a bit better. My balance is better because I can actually stand in front of the wardrobe when I want to decide what to wear without falling in,
mm-hmm.
which is actually a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
What else can I do? I'm reading my notes. Oh, my bladder's even improved a bit, which is always a big thing for all of us.
Yes.
And it's just doing things. I tell you, the other thing that's actually made a big difference for me is my dexterity in my left hand is
mm-hmm.
much better. I can actually type again, which I couldn't do for years, and there's a little bit more strength in it as well.
Sorry, just hang on a moment. If I can get this to stop.
Something happening?
It's an answer machine, and if somebody leaves a message, just wait a minute.
Oh, okay.
I should have unplugged it, but I can unplug it now. So they can phone back, can't they? forgot what I was asking now. What were you telling me?
I was just listing some of the benefits
Yes.
I had.
Yeah. Can you remember where you got up to? You were saying about the dexterity in your left hand?
Yeah, those are the main ones, you know, the biggest ones that I can remember. I mean, lots of little things like I can throw a ball straight for the dog, which I hadn't been able to do, or just little things like that, lots of little things like that. And I just find that every few months I notice something new that's got better. Oh, yes, and of course, no progression whatsoever. No more, not a single new bad symptom.
Wow, and for somebody who's primary progressive, that's a big deal, isn't it?
Yeah, well, because I just gradually kept getting worse, that's all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every couple of months there'd be something new, and you'd think, oh no, what's this?
Yes. If you had to rate your life before LDN on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, what would it have been?
Oh, before LDN, you see, I had a pump, which I got about the year before. And of course, if I'd had LDN, maybe I wouldn't have needed it, but I can't say. And that really made a huge difference because I had such terrible pain. I just didn't even want to live. So, I mean, I was really happy to be in a pain-free, at least have no pain and have my leg more flexible. So I was definitely at about a 5 or 6 by then.
Right.
But then I got LDN, and I reckon I'm right up at 8, maybe.
Well, that's good. That is good. And how old are you now, Trish?
I am 63.
Well, that is very
And
good.
I think the biggest thing about LDN, instead of living with fear of the future, feeling really, really scared, just thinking, how bad am I going to get? What's going to come next? I can just start there and think, well, if anything, I'm getting better, and I can live my life more positively. And that's, I think, is a huge thing.
It is. What would you say to other people who are contemplating trying LDN?
I say, for goodness sakes, definitely try it. But most important of all, don't give up. Because I've recommended it to people. They're really excited. They go to the doctor, and the doctor is so negative and won't give it to them, and they just give up. Or if they manage to persevere and actually get it, then it doesn't work fantastically for them straight away, and they give up. And I say you must give it a fair chance. I mean, fortunately, I did have some positive results, but I just persisted through all the negatives. And I did use, which you know about in England, but I know the Americans don't, I find a kinesiologist has been invaluable for me because she has been able to help me with all the allergies, including my reactions to LDN. I would say, well, this is a problem, and I might have to stop for a while. At one stage, I was only taking 3 milligrams once a week. I now take, which is what seems to work for me best of all, is 3 milligrams every second night.
Okay.
And that works, and I'm happy.
Well, that's really good. Well,
yeah, I really do think people have to manage their own illness, and they just, and especially, I'm afraid, the neurologists can't or won't keep up with everything, or aren't able to, and you've got to do your own research and then go and get it.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your story with us, Trish. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Linda. I hope it will help someone, especially those newly diagnosed. I think if only they take LDN, they will never progress. Wouldn't that be fantastic?
It's